Hi, good morning, everyone. Okay, this is Professor Hwang. So, continuing to cover the topic of worldview, and actually, it's a Christian worldview we are covering. And to understand the Christian worldview, you gotta understand the worldview first. Then what the worldview is. We've been covering that topic, and today we are going to cover the topic that worldview is related. There are many components or elements that are or domains, I said, domains that are covered by worldview. And the main thing, again, in the worldview is how a person or family or a community or a government or a nation or a certain ethnic culture is viewing or seeing or perceiving the reality. So mainly, again, worldview has to do with reality is very subjective matter, subjective thing. Reality is there. With the scientific eyes, reality is very objective. Everyone should see the reality in the same perspective. But in actual world that we are living in, each individual, even the individual, has a different view of what the reality is. And when you are seeing the reality, there are many different elements. Just simply, there are people, there are animals, there are plants, and the universe, and the life as we process it. So these are some of the major topics that are covered or that are included in this worldview. And the thing is, one domain or one subject of worldview is not standing by itself, but that is related to something else. So how one views something else has to do also with how one views the other matter or the other subject or the other domains. So that's the thing that we are trying to cover today. So again, worldview is related to one another. It's closely connected. Thus, we begin with the organic nature of word and worldview. Even though the things may look segmented or separated, the livelihood or living of each element in this reality, because it's organic, it is closely connected. Organic, again, your head, your arms, your legs, your eyes, your mouth, that's all closely connected, organic. It's living matter. And when it's living matter, it's closely connected in organic way. Because it's organic, when your head gets some pain, we call headache, and then whole body feels it, and you just feel discomfort when you have headache. So, and then your whole body feels fatigue, meaning weak. So that's how these organic is connected, because it's alive. And so the worldview is a living thing, which means it constantly changes. People sometimes mistakes that worldview is fixed, but actually it is not. As the time goes on, it changes and it continues to change. So one worldview today is not going to be the same tomorrow. It may not change that rapidly, but in an individual that could happen. But in a culture, worldview slowly changes and keeps changing. Also, each worldview is interacting. Even the worldview of, for example, let's say Asian worldview. Let's say there is something called Asian worldview, and there is an American worldview in general. And these two seems to be, Asia and America is very apart. There is a big ocean in between. But these two worldview constantly is interacting with one another. These days, in the ancient days, there were not that much communication, and there was a little or less influence from one culture to the other. So there is not that much interaction between these two different worldviews. But Western worldview and Eastern worldview now, it sometimes crashes, sometimes it emerges together, sometimes learn from each other. In that way, it interacts. Not only interacts, because it's interacting, it influences other worldview. It happens not only between Western and Eastern culture, but it happens within a society or individuals. So, for example, when you begin to date a lady or a man, boy and girls, by their conversation, meeting together, sharing the time, even sharing the meals and everything, you may not acknowledge or understand, but the worldview changes. So when you continue to see someone with a dating relationship, and they interact, and thus, because of that interaction, there's going to be change in the worldview. So it's related, constantly changing because it's interacting with someone else's worldview. So simply, your perspective, your philosophy, your idea, your thoughts are changing, which means your worldview at the root may also change. And that's a characteristic of the worldview that are related. Again, number 4, then individually and socially. It's connected. Each person's worldview is connected or related to someone else's worldview, and that excuse me, that happens within the society, a community, within a nation, within ethnicity. So it is the levels at each level of worldview. It does connect and influence one another. Okay, so that's basically the nature of worldview. In terms of Christian worldview, when you become a believer, you begin to read the Bible, you study the Bible, and you listen to the sermons in the church. Not only that, you are interacting with other believers because of that nature, and then your worldview begins to change in a Christian way. The problem is some Christian communities have their own worldview, which may not or may be based on the Bible or in line with the Bible, which means it could be based on Bible, it could not be based on Bible. So so-called heresies or these heresies happen because they do not base their theology or teaching on the Bible. So each Christian community may have a little different worldview, but basically, when you base your Christian worldview on Bible, it cannot be different. The reason for the difference is because of the interpretation. So the reality is biblical truth for Christian worldview. When there's a reality called God, Triune God, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And through the Holy Spirit, we have this scripture called Bible. Now that's the reality that we really like to understand and perceive and learn from. But because of that interpretation, we may differ in some of the doctrines, some of the theologies, some of the perspective. What we do in a Christian world or the church is to educate people, to provide them with a common, solid, and Bible-based worldview. So when you become a Christian, when you are a Christian, the question that you're asking is this teaching or this worldview, is it based on the Bible? To do so, you gotta know, you gotta understand what the biblical or Christian worldview is. So that's the issue that we are going to study further later on. Okay, coherency with the diversity. See, when you see the world, whether you're Christian or not, whether in your Eastern in the Eastern culture or Western culture, doesn't matter. There's two when you analyze or categorize the worldview, there's something that's coherent or congruent. That means common. So there's something common in each worldview. Something that you share together. For example, say you're an American. And there's something called American ideal, American thoughts, or Americanism even. This is something that's common. For example, freedom, justice. See, these are the common value in their worldview. And if you're an American citizen, and you are asked to share that common value. And if you do not share that, and you're far from being an American. So equal rights of human being, or the freedom of speech, these are so-called common, coherent, congruent, or shared value. While you're sharing something else, there's something that can be tolerated as a diverse or difference. So there's something that you can have your own opinion or your own perspective on how you dress, what car you drive, and what style of house you want to live in, or what kind of food you are eating, that is not shared. It can be different. So that's a coherency with the diversity. The thing is, where you draw the line between something that's common or even absolute and something that is diverse and thus relative. These two things are connected and related. It's not separated. Because it's not separated, you have to have a certain standard or line. So when you are determining something or deciding something or even making communication, if you're trying to come up with an agreement, always there is an issue of whether is it absolute or related. If you are to have a good relationship among the people, within a family, within a company, or within a church, you gotta know which are the absolute, and do you agree with this absolute value, and what's relative and diverse permitted to be diverse. And first measurement or the analysis of a worldview always has to do with knowing which is absolute and which is considered relative and permissive to be diverse. The same with the Christian belief. When you become a Christian, there is something called absolute truth, which cannot be changed or cannot be different. We believe as Christian, all we have three God in one God, but three persons, which makes a difference between the Christianity and the Islam belief. So Islam belief, there is no three person. God is only one God, and they cannot understand that there are three different persons to be one. So that's the major difference. So absolute truth in Christianity says we believe in one God who are three in person, and these three persons are in the same rank. While the Islam belief there's only one God, Allah, and there's no other gods. And if you say there is three gods in one, that's blasphemy. So that's the major difference. That's why Christianity and Islam cannot come together in a doctrinal matter. So that's the absolute truth for Christianity. Christianity believes that Jesus came in person and 100% as a human being, then also 100% as God, which is not possible to some other religions. So those are something called absolute truth. And also, Jesus was resurrected as a total 100% human and 100% God. So that's kind of truth that we are talking about. And this truth is also related how you worship, when you come to church, and what the teaching should be, and these things. So that's how you understand the coherency and the diversity. Again, now once you understand that concept, society and individuals, they may have something that's coherent, and as an individual, you're diverse. So society in general is considered something that should be coherent and congruent, and each individual, every person, considered diverse. And some society have less of individual diversity or difference. For example, Korea in 50s, 60s, and 70s, 1970s, is more of coherent. Society demands certain conformity, meaning you have to be like this. So when you go to school, you have to wear a certain uniform, and even in a company, workplace, you have to wear certain uniform, because uniformity was an important value in past Korea. But nowadays, school permits, some schools it still wears the uniform, but many schools permit your own clothes, free dressing code. So that's kind of coherence and diversity. The thing is, these are closely connected, related. And because it's related, it should be integrated. If each segment of the social elements or individual elements or coherency and diversity are not integrated, and we have problem. So even if you may not agree in something that's absolute value, you should have your own system that is integrated, not separated and divided and non-related. So that's the main thing. So when you look at someone's worldview, or if you're trying to understand a person, the question that you're asking is this person a whole person? Okay. Whether it's a person, whether it's a society, whether it's a church, being whole. This word is very important in understanding the integration or the relation of each segment. So to be whole is not only is integrated, and it is healthy. So healthy integration is being whole. So if you're looking at a person, or if you are looking at a family, the question is this family a whole family? Is this person a whole person? If you're not seeing a whole person, that person is not mature yet. This applies to a church too, a Christianity. And if you look at a church, is this a church, whole church? Meaning, is every component of church or the members of church, are they integrated, meaning in good relationship? And also, are they healthy? Healthy, it can be applied to many things. Healthy, well, the body, healthy mental, healthy doctrine, and healthy rituals. These being healthy is very important in being a whole. So when you see a person, we are analyzing a person by their worldview. And as you see their worldview, if it's all segmented and it doesn't make sense to one another, it's not integrated. Homogeneous unit means once you are integrated, it's connected, and you are seeing the whole thing healthy. It's like a forest. Forest has many trees, but these many trees are integrated. There are small plants, there are tall trees, there are wide leaves, having leaves trees, and there are nail like needle leaves trees. All different kind of trees are integrated, and by being integrated, it creates a healthy ecology, which is called a forest. And when that happens, it becomes a homogeneous unit. And when it's homogeneous, it's organized. Organized is not usually applied to the organic matter, but non-organic, when it is homogeneous, when it's integrated, when it is coherent, we call it organized. A company or church is organized, meaning it's in having a certain order, not chaos. So a healthy, a coherent and integrated worldview, it has order. And because it has order, we can call it organized. So that's very important characters of coherent worldview. Now we continue with the topic on the frame of reference. This frame of reference, it is something that structures a worldview, and because of the frame of reference, we can see that worldview is related and connected. Definition. What's a frame of reference? Even though you may realize it or understand it yet, but every person and every culture, every society, they do have a frame of reference or references, and which is closely connected to the paradigm that we discussed in the last lesson. So paradigm worldview has to do with this frame of reference. It is like your bone in your body. Even though you have flesh over the bones, without these bones under the flesh, you are not going to be able to stand or walk or do anything in the matter. So frame of reference is like the bone. It's very close to the paradigm, but there's a little difference. Frame provides relative categories. So the frame means it does provide a category, while the reference provides relative measurements. So it categorizes and it provides a measurement. And you understand what it means. So the frame is something that divides and categorizes into certain order, while the references provide the measurement, the quality and the quantity. So reference is again a quantifier and a qualifier. qualifier and quantifier. Qualifier is a measurement of quality, and quantifier is a measurement of quantity and the quality. So each quantity and quantity and quality is measured, meaning something is more, something is less. So that's what it does, the reference does. So let's continue. The function of this frame of reference does these things. First, it identifies. So a good example of frame of reference is the names. So by naming things, naming a person, you have frame of reference. For example, human being. But what kind of human being? And the frame of reference says there's a male and female, woman and man. So these names, man and woman, the male and female, it's a good example of frame of reference. Not only it categorizes, it does qualify, sometimes quantify. So first thing the word view or the frame of reference does is it identifies, and by identifying and classifying the things, it gives a relative position. Okay, relative value, relative position one to the other. So that kind of creates the frame of reference and the relationship. So father and the son is a good example of a frame of reference. By naming father as father and son as son, you do understand the relationship. So worldview creates that relationship, and by identifying every individual subject or object. Again, say man and woman, it does not only identify, it distinguishes which is and which is not. And when this is not. When this is, that is not. So that separates and distinguishes. And it differentiates. When you distinguish and when you separate, it can be the same thing. For example, I have two pens. I can call it pens or markers. Okay? So when I say markers, it separates from my cell phone. So markers and cell phones separate. But within these markers, one is red marker, the other is purple marker. So purple marker is different from the red marker. So that's again the frame of reference. So the language, before the language there is an idea, but before the idea there is a perception. Your I say this color is different from this color. So that perception turns your idea, and that idea turns into the language. So these are the function of the world view. So naming is a very a critical elements of understanding worldview. Again, the naming, what is the naming? Is the language. So when you understand the language, when you analyze the language, then you come to the bottom of it, to the frame of reference. And by studying a language and the culture, for example, then you can come to the frame of reference. So it quantifies, meaning large, small, that's an example of quantify. And then it qualifies good or bad. Good quality and bad quality. Those are the qualifiers. And it does qualify. So good and bad is a good example of frame of reference. So people and the culture, whether you acknowledge or not, when you study it, when you analyze it, they do have these frame of reference. And one good way to understand a person or a religion, for example, is to see what's behind it, what's under it. So the paradigms, the hidden frame of reference is key to understanding worldview. By analyzing a worldview, you can compare your worldview to others, and their worldview to yours. So thus, again, this frame of reference qualifies, or paradigm does qualify. And it helps to communicate. Without frame of reference, you are not going to be able to communicate effectively. And it is very easy to say man and woman and girl and boy, then try to explain with your hands or drawings every time. So the words and the language is a good frame of reference which helps to communicate. And not only this frame of reference helps someone to communicate, but it helps you to document. So language and the writings, the letters, say A, B, C, D. These letters, alphabets, they help you. I mean, the alphabets are a good example of frame of reference. By arranging these alphabets, we come up with a certain word, and these words helps us to document things. So the frame of reference helps us to document. So without this frame of reference, one cannot actually live in a society. So example of paradigm. So paradigm and the frame of reference is used interchangeably, which means it's basically the same concept. So paradigm and the frame of reference are the basic bone, the structure of a worldview. By understanding the paradigm or the frame of reference that's underlying behind the culture, context, or religion, you can understand or analyze or compare one culture to the other, one person to the other. So it is very important tool and useful tool to live. I mean, it's not so academic thing or scholastic thing. A worldview is daily and everyday thing. So this lesson is going to help you a lot. Let's continue with the examples of this worldview, the paradigms and the frame of reference. some of the paradigms or the frame of reference is given. It's given to you. As you are born into the world, as a baby, many things are given to you. Your family is given. You don't have a choice. Your mom and dad, they were given to you. And your brother and sisters, you have no saying in what kind of brother or sister you are going to have. So these are the given. It's very passive. You don't have your choice, your sayings. And there are many things, the paradigms or the frame of reference or the worldview in that matter is given to you. And some of the domains or the areas of this worldview, for example, gender. Your gender is given. You don't have your choice. The language, if you're born as a Korean, you're going to speak Korean. You're born as an American, you're going to learn to speak and speak the English, right? So those are the things here. Your race, you don't choose to born as a nation, as given. And also the territory that you're born into, that's given. So these frame of reference paradigms, as you, these are basic, the fundamental frame of reference, or the paradigm, or the fundamental of worldview. These things are given. And nature, I mean, you can born into a Mediterranean weather and the climate and the nature, and you're born into a jungle in Africa or a jungle in Amazon. So the nature around you are given. But now you can change the territory, your nature. The universe that we see is given to us, and the Christian belief is given by God, the Creator, and the scientists believe it has evolved by itself. And scientists are only able to explain the mechanism of how universe was born, and so-called Big Bang theory. That's one example of scientists trying to explain how the world came. But why the world came and who made it, how it began, is beyond science. So that's where the religion comes in, actually. And that's, the worldview. The science explains certain part of worldview, while the religion tries to explain the other part of worldview. And the color that we see, these things are given. While these things are given, some paradigms are given to you. Again, some of the frame of reference or paradigm are cultured. Cultured means it's being made or developed or processed, sometimes processed by us human beings. For example, letters, language is actually given. It's given by God. But the letters the Americans use alphabet, and many European cultures use alphabet. Chinese use Chinese characters. Koreans use Hangul. So these letters are invented by men as a result of our efforts. And these things are so-called cultured. And the numbers and the religion, culture, these things are the things that has been developed or invented or created by a human being. Again, some other examples. Houses, dresses, tools. Because it's cultured, it reflects the worldview. So paradigm is underlying or behind these things that are cultured. For example, houses. If you are living in a rural area in somewhere in Asia, most likely your houses use rice straw, rice straw, and also use those clay, the dirt, to build houses, because it's something that you can put your hand on. That's how the culture is made. And if you're living in America, most houses are built with the lumber, the wood, because wood is readily available and it's solid and strong, and it is to cut and make into certain sizes. So it reflects, houses are different, and it reflects the culture. Dresses, way you dress, it's different. And not only is it different, it does have certain meanings. And especially in us grow up in Asian culture, we know our traditional dress, and we don't wear that anymore, but because of the reason of the comfort and convenience. But when you study the costume or the traditional dress, the traditional dress does have meanings. For example, Korea used to wear the white colored dress, which reflects the message of peace. So that's, and then there's something called colored the dress in Korea, as probably it's the same in China, which is believed to distance the evil spirit. So those are the like a frame of reference, a paradigm behind the dresses. Tools is another example. Okay. Now the paradigm on the tangible. Tangible means physically you can touch and put your hands on. So those are the tangible. Direction. NEWS, north, east, west, and south. So the direction is a frame of reference, good frame of reference. And without this direction, you cannot travel and you cannot do probably anything. We use navigation these days, your smartphone. And even though it's navigation, it's only a technology applied. The navigation has to do with a map. in the ancient days, when Columbus left the port of in Spain, he had a map, but he didn't have a map of America. He only had a compass, which says north, east, west, and south. So that's frame of reference example. Size, large and small, and you measure this size with the centimeters or inches or foot, yards. So these measurements are a good example of frame of reference, and it is an example of paradigm. Color, you say bright and dark, is a frame of reference, and when we say dark, probably most culture understand what the darkness is and what the brightness is. When you said red, and no, that's red is different from green, so that's frame of reference. Weight, heavy or light, and we use kilograms or pounds to measure the weight, and length, long and short. So mile, kilometers, these are the measurement of length. So these are the examples of frame of reference on the something that's tangible, something that you can put your hands on, something that is visible, something that is physical. Height, width, broad or narrow, tall or short, depth, deep or shallow, then shape, triangle, rectangular, circle, oval, and these are all frame of reference. So when you know and understand multiple frame of reference, that means you are able, you are capable. So the language, if you know more words, more vocabularies, that means you have more ability to express yourself in a more diverse and abundant way. Another word, you have more frame of reference to explain and express and describe the situation or object or concepts even, which helps you to become more of a whole person. In this time, whole person means a better person. Better than the other? No, actually better than yourself yesterday. So each day you can become more of a whole person, better person, by expanding the frame of reference. So that's quite important to have more frame of reference. And learning another language is the way to expand, broaden, or mature your frame of reference. See? So that's why the learning another language is important. It makes you a better person. Again, another example of frame of reference. Something that is abstract. We've discussed something that is solid and physical. Abstract, that's not physical. It's more of concept. It's in there. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. And you cannot put your hands on it, but you can understand it. So for example, beautiful and ugly. These are good frame of reference, but it is good, but it is not that objective as height or weight. So when you say it's beautiful, each person feels different. Even though there's something that's common and coherent. Majority of people say the flower is beautiful. But there are some people who say the flower is ugly. They are not sharing this common value. Oh, but you cannot say because someone say the flower is not beautiful, you cannot say this person is wrong or ethically wrong or unethical. But usually people say the flower is beautiful. But when it comes to something else other than a flower, when you say a person is beautiful, sometimes it's very confusing. Let's say that. Very confusing. Someone is beautiful to this person, while some say that person is ugly. So that's really it falls into this area, diverse area. So it's not objective, it is very subjective. So on abstract, something that's in your head, not visible. It's hard to make objective frame of reference or objective paradigm. Each feels different. And smart and dumb. Looks like you have a pretty much good idea about what this being smart is. But in reality, where do you draw a line between being smart and dumb? Is that IQ? IQ say so much, but it doesn't say everything. You can have a low IQ, but you can still be smart. So that IQ is an objective measurement. It's not absolute. So these are the things of frame of reference paradigm that is an abstract. Again, let's go to the examples of a frame of reference on people. So when you see people in this very materialistic and capitalistic world that we are living in, rich and poor is a very common measurement or paradigm or frame of reference on people. Even in China, many of you came from China. Nowadays, rich and poor is a very priority frame of reference in determining or classifying people. So rich and poor. It's very ancient and it is still a very valid frame of reference on people. High and low. I mean, human being in generations and generations in history try to deal with this very issue. The things that we are facing today, we had a very unstable days and nights for past few days, past weekend, due to this George Floyd issue. So as you see the issue, it is high and low. Some people, for example, white supremacists, they say that white are better than black. Nowhere in the Bible says that. And some even in the past history, they try to justify white supremacy with the Bible, saying, there were 3 different races after the flood, and there are 3 sons who dealt with that issue of being Noah naked, and then there are 3 different reactions, and because due to that reactions, the one who mocked the nakedness of Noah became the black race. I mean, nowhere in the Bible says that, but somehow that become a doctrine, or actually a dogma, and they teach this in Sunday schools in the white church, and that they believe that as biblical truth. And because of these kind of things, people have very misunderstanding, and that it develops into racism. And when that racism is connected to your belief or your faith, and it's very dangerous. So that happened in the history, and that has to do with being low and high. So who's low and who's high? Some culture says the male are higher than the female. Men are better than women. Some culture says that those who have more the age are better than the younger ones. That's Korean culture. Basically saying if you're 1 year older, you gotta use a language that honors that person. So that's high and low in every culture, and that's a paradigm and frame of reference. But the Bible says, Christianity says, there is no one who is better than the other in terms of being a human, the value. Every person has the same value. Black's life is just important as white life, and there's no difference. So that's what the Bible teaches, but people can interpret the Bible in different way and use those Bible teachings to gain their advantage. And when that happens, it is wrong. It's not biblical, and it's actually blasphemy, because you are going against the words of God. And we try to deal with this high and low issue, and democracy is there to say every human being are equal in their rights, and that they have their own God-given freedom, and that's biblical, because democracy, American democracy, came from Christian faith. Again, learned and ignorant. For example, in Korea, we know that we highly respect those with more education. That's why people try to go to the college and then the graduate schools and everything, and try to earn the PhD. That motivates people to study and study, and that actually helped the whole society to become a better society in some sense. But if you try to put down the less learned to the more learned, and it becomes an issue. But people use that paradigm as a measurement, or the classification, classified the people, civilized and barbarian. For example, in England, the English Christianity said those people in Africa and South America, they are barbarian. And in biblical sense, barbarian is people without God. But when the English used that word in the colonial England, it means they're less than us. So civilization does not mean that you are a better people. Because you have technology doesn't mean that you're better than those without technology. Those who are in a primitive, that word even, primitive, is very prejudiced word. So those who are in a natural state and living their style of life and having their own culture, that's not barbarian. That's not uncivilized. That's civilized in their sense. So that's how Bible sees these different civilizations or the benefit of science and technology. Benefit of science and technology, it helps you, but it doesn't mean that you're a better person than those who are living in a jungle. So that's how Christianity views these things. Now this us and others, that's very problematic paradigm or frame of reference. So who are us? Who are we? And this, whether it's a Eastern culture or a Western culture, this is the same issue. How you draw a line, we or us means that's one of us, same and shared, and on my side, while the others, usually it means potential enemy. So these are very problematic. And again, we're going back to this, the racial issue that America is facing today. There are two different us. Some white says only white people are us, and the black are the others. And they put the black on the lower scale of society, while they put themselves on the top of the society. So that division, we and others, us and others division, can cause conflict. And in Christianity, the Christians are us, and then non-believers are others. So does that mean a Christian are better than those non-believing people? No. But many Christians confuse this. Because we are Christians, they think they are better than those who are not having or knowing Jesus Christ, which is very, very far from the truth. The truth is, we are only the first person or the person who come to know God and Christ earlier than the others. Because you got to know them, the God earlier, that doesn't mean that you're a better person. But some confuse this. And because they are Christian, they think they are above and beyond other people, non-believers, which is a bad paradigm and it's wrong frame of work for Christians. And the problem is many pastors and then theologians, and the church teach that as the solid doctrine. So many issues that we are facing as a Christianity, as a church today, comes out of this. We Christians and them non-Christians. No, that's not the way it is. The Christians there to serve those who are not yet come to know Jesus. So that's the correct statement. Not yet to come to know Jesus. So what is our duty? It is us who knew earlier than them to go there and let them know, help them to know who God is, who Jesus Christ is. And there is no distinction of better and less, or high and low. And that's the message in Christian worldview. Okay. The frame of reference paradigm does identify and classify. I told you about the names already. And the codes. These codes classifies, and the numbers. These are the example of identifiers and classifiers. I have discussed this. Scientific measurement. Longitude, latitude, degrees, kilograms, pounds, meter, yard, and ounce. That's once, not once, ounce. Wrong spelling. Okay, these are the measurements. And because we have these measurements, we can make a good frame of reference and make a communications and understand the reality with the common, coherent, and congruent conceptualization. So these frame of reference, scientific measurements, helps us to be more civilized. But that does not mean that we are better than others. Positioning, up and down, low and high, and gender, class, age. These are the things, examples of positioning paradigm. And sometimes this positioning, if you put the value to the positioning, for example, I wrote the Seoul. In Korean, we say we are going up to Seoul. When you live in a province, other local areas, you're going up to Seoul. It means Seoul is a better place than other locations, other cities. So that's kind of putting value to the position, and which may create problems. Okay, I think time's up, and we'll try to stop here. And thank you for attending this class and listening to the lectures. And I hope and pray that you'll make a good use of these knowledges. And even if you're not a Christian, it's important to understand the concept of worldview and make a use of that worldview concept and as a tool in your life. And if you're a Christian, then know that Christian worldview is very different from the secular or general worldview of your culture, what you have learned. And it is important to change that worldview to the biblical one or Christian one. And it is a lifetime process that you're going to face as a Christian. And even though you're not a Christian, it is a lifetime process. You are trying to reach this coherent and the whole holistic worldview of your own. And it's lifetime process again. And this academic effort and the learning is all has to do with the, creating a holistic and better worldview. And thank you for listening, and see you next time.